Every great lord has his maester. Every lesser lord aspires to one. If you do not have a maester, it is taken to mean that you are of little consequence. The grey rats read and write our letters, even for such lords as cannot read themselves. And who can say for certain that they are not twisting the words for their own ends? Maester Kennet wasn't mentioned in the main A Song of Ice and Fire series, nor was his doctorate thesis Passages of the Dead. He didn't turn up until the World Book. Maester Kennet was assigned to Winterfell supposedly to do his PhD in burial methods of the North. Interestingly enough, this gave him the credentials to look into burial mounds and old gods' holy places. Like a Victorian British archaeologist, he had carte blanche to do whatever he wanted to sites like Longley, where he plundered a giant's barrow of its bones and obsidian arrowheads. Whatever agenda the Citadel has for removing magic from the world would be well served finding out all they could about the old gods. There are many areas of research that are tangential to northern burial methods. First Men history and religion especially. Children of the Forest, weirwoods, old gods, skin changers, dire wolves, others, White Walkers, or whites. Kennet scoured old gods' holy places in the north, including the Great Barrow outside Barrowton, officially packing up giant's bones, and unofficially whatever else he deemed relevant, and shipped it all down to the Citadel. Boxes sized for giant's bones could hold lots of things. Direwolf bones, warrior bones, runic artifacts. His true mission may never be known. Without the bone evidence, who can say if giants even existed? Direwolves are the sigil of House Stark. According to George R.R. Martin, all the Stark children are wargs. We see it in Jon, Arya, and Bran's POVs. Rickon can be assumed from context clues, and Sansa's lady was killed before we could see the Bond in action. Half buried in blood-stained snow, a huge dark shape slumped in death. Ice had formed in its shaggy gray fur, and the faint smells of corruption clung to it like a woman's perfume. Bran glimpsed blind eyes crawling with maggots, a wide mouth full of yellow teeth. There are questions that haven't been asked or answered yet about animal remains. Can direwolves be whited? Can animals that contain singers be turned as well, or does that block the signal? Typical of maesters, we aren't told where Kennet came from, but there is mention of a man named Kennet from Fleabottom, similar names indicating his potential origins. According to the laws of physics, round towers withstand wind better than square. There are round towers at Storm's End and at Winterfell, both attributed to Bran the Builder. He was probably the person who had the ingenuity to develop drum towers to be able to withstand weather. Storm's End was the prototype to combat the sea winds of the storm god. He built another at Winterfell to combat the winter winds of the others. There are two histories about the existence of drum towers you must choose from. The first references Brandon the Builder, designer and architect, credited with the Wall, Winterfell, and Storm's End. These all have in common spells worked with magic from the Children of the Forest to keep out shadows and others. We don't know enough about the High Tower, except that its base on Battle Isle is made of black stone. Even with the presence of magic that maesters disavow, maesters take advantage of the lack of carbon dating and give the credit for the magical construction to their own non-magical nationality. A people who believe that the human seven brought down stars from the sky and placed them on the brow of Hugor the Hill. Andal propagandists decided that this useful technological achievement could only have been developed by Andals, though the timelines don't match by thousands of years, and Andals had little influence in the north. Archmaester Vyron, in his Triumphs and Defeats, claims that somehow, apparently, the seventh castle at Storm's End must have been built by the Andals, even though it was said to have been built by Durin's Godsgrief with the help of Brandon the Builder. The only contradictory evidence being that it was round. Is it more likely that three disparate kingdoms wrote retroactive stories about the same Brandon the Builder once these edifices were built in Andal times? Or that the Andals took credit for all the world's marvels but couldn't quash all the legends? If built by Andals, it seems that the spells of the old gods transferred unassisted from the old to the new edifices. The sea god leaves Storm's End in place, and Melisandre needed smuggling inside its walls. We can see that Kennet is on the side of Andal propagandists from his essays on architecture. We have no information as to when Kennet arrived at Winterfell. The Maester during Cregan's father's reign is so far unnamed. Whether he served through Rickon's death and Cregan's investiture as Lord at 13, Rickon's brother Bernard's regency, and Cregan's uprising to claim his rightful place as Lord of Winterfell at 18, we do not know. We don't know, therefore, who was there for Jace's visit and possible marriage or the Hour of the Wolf. We only know that Cregan was the Lord of Winterfell when Kennet was there. Cregan did not enforce the Pact of Ice and Fire by marrying a Targaryen to a Stark. He married a Blackwood of the Old Gods and not the Valyrian gods, reinforcing the Old Gods' blood in the Stark line, instead of adding dragon blood. Unless, that is, Jace married Sarah Snow in secret and had issue. Jace was a Targaryen, so polygamy is always an option. Marwyn insinuated to Samwell that the Citadel has something to do with the death of the dragons. Who do you think killed all the dragons the last time around? Gallant dragon slayers armed with swords, he spat? The world the Citadel is building has no place in it for sorcery or prophecy or glass candles, much less for dragons. From context clues, the Dance of the Dragons was an interesting time in Westeros. South of the Wall, you have the Civil War, where only 4 dragons survived, then stunted hatchlings were the legacy of Aegon III Dragonbane. Shortly after that, in 153, all dragons were declared dead, and no new eggs hatch until Daenerys. During the Hour of the Wolf in King's Landing, Grand Maester Munkin replaced Grand Maester Orwyle, who was sent to join the Night's Watch on Cregan's orders, but he never arrived. Maester Kennet may have been from King's Landing and was sent up to Winterfell coincidentally to be around for the disappearance of the direwolves. We may find out what writings, relics, or items of power traveled south to the restricted section of the Citadel, things that may have helped the North remember better. The key stolen from Archmaester Walgrave, the Raven Master, may have more consequence than we know. Walgrave may possibly be the father of Maester Wallace, who was at Winterfell before Maester Luwin. When Paige shook it, the key fell out onto the floor. The key was old and heavy, made of black iron. Supposedly it opened every door at the Citadel. Only the Archmaesters had such keys. It's interesting to note that Kennet was in a position to interview the people of Winterfell and the North about their folk tales. These are the people who knew the tales that would be taught to Old Nan and then the Stark children. Fears for the long night, when the sun hides its face for years at a time, and little children are born and live and die all in darkness, while the direwolves grow gaunt and hungry, and the White Walkers move through the woods. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Take care.